This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show on 97.3 ESPN with your host, Nick Costco. We're taking you up to the kickoff of Rutgers football. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Nick Costco.
Live from SHI Stadium on the campus of Rutgers University in Piscataway, New Jersey. It's the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm on location again for the second time this season. It is chilly outside as I am back in the outdoor booth next to some of my former student colleagues at Rutgers University. Oh my goodness, it is chilly out here. It says 60 degrees outside, and it's definitely not 60 quite yet. The sun's supposed to come out. Unfortunately, the sun does not shine on this booth. We are covered, so good for rain and snow, but not good for sunlight right now. So I am a little chilly right now, so bear with me. We have a packed show here today as we'll lead you up to the kickoff of Rutgers versus Maryland today here in Week 5 of the 2019 college football season. Rutgers sporting the red jerseys today with the white pants, red helmets. Maryland sporting the white jerseys with the black pants and, of course, the black helmets as usual. We're going to have James Cratch of NJ.com join me in about 15 minutes or so. We'll get his thoughts on a wild and hectic week at Rutgers University, the firing of head coach Chris Ash, which I was pretty much advocating for last week. Interim head coach Nunzio Campanelli makes his interim head coach debut for Rutgers today. Quarterback change as well for the Scarlet Knights. Go figure. That always seems to always happen every single season. But for right now, we will dive into some of the big games that we are going to have today in college football, some of these ranked matchups, and two of them right here in the Big Ten. So we'd like to take a prime focus on the Big Ten as well. And of course, we have our picks later in the show around 11:35 or so. 9-7 on the season. If you believe it or not, we are over 500, folks. 3-1 last week, and we got a nice little 4-pack of games later in the show. I'll give you those as well. Of course, we always give you the Rutgers game as our fourth and final game of the week. Big thanks to Billy Schwein of the locker room for having me on for a couple minutes. Towards the end of his show, you can catch him tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And with that, we'll get underway here with the College Football Countdown to Kickoff. And we're going to start with the Big Ten matchups here. We're going to start with number 14 Iowa. They are at number 19 Michigan today. And pretty much, I got to say, this is it for Jim Harbaugh. If you cannot win this game, if you are Jim Harbaugh, I don't think he lasts post-2019. And that may sound a little ludicrous because Jim Harbaugh is still a very good football coach, and this Michigan team is going to go to a bowl game. They are going to contend in the division, at least for between them and Ohio State. But the way I look at it is, if you cannot beat Iowa, and again, it's at home. Iowa's been really solid this season, and Iowa obviously now a top 15 team, but you're at home again. You just got embarrassed by Wisconsin the other week. You beat up on Rutgers, of all teams, just last week, and I get it was a nice little showing, 52-0, but again, it's Rutgers, and they are in their own little world right now. This is a huge game. This is, in fact, I would say their biggest game besides the Ohio State game later in the season. Obviously, they will have to play Michigan State as well, which they are now into the top 25. But if you're Michigan, you can't lose this game. If you have any hope, any outside hope for a college football playoff berth, and dare I say it, yes, they can still get there if they win out and win the Big Ten. Yes, it is a distinct possibility that Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines can still get to the college football playoff. But, I mean, this team has not even been to a Big Ten title game under Jim Harbaugh. It's always been Ohio State, and it was Penn State the one year. Jim Harbaugh cannot get past these teams right now, and if you're going to play a team in Iowa today, which is arguably one of the most disciplined teams in the entire country, good luck. If you make any one mistake today, Iowa's going to take advantage. Kirk Ferentz has that team ready to go. They are pretty good on the road, and again, it's a dangerous matchup for Michigan. I don't like them pretty much today, and I'm kind of spoiling and teasing you with my picks a little bit later today. I will pick that game. I'm not a big fan of Michigan today. They beat up on Rutgers last week, and they were dismantled by Wisconsin the week before. I don't know where this team is going, and as far as Iowa is concerned, they have an outside shot at the college football playoff. And I know I've kind of narrowed down the teams to pretty much the top 10 right now, and you see Iowa and Michigan outside that top 10. Right now, Wisconsin's the favorite over in the Big Ten West. But if you see what Iowa's doing right now, they got a shot. I'm telling you. And I know it's easy to say that you have to win out in all these scenarios to get to the college football playoff, but that's pretty much it. Because if you have more than one loss, you're not getting in. That is a fact. You are not getting in with more than one loss, but these are two teams that have a chance for a Big Ten title. Iowa, of course, I would say really only has to contend with Wisconsin in the Big Ten West. Michigan, meanwhile, has to go through a gauntlet. They've already gotten dismantled by a Big Ten West opponent, Wisconsin, but you have to beat Iowa today, get by them, but then you have to be able to beat Penn State, Michigan State, and of course Ohio State. And I don't know if Jim Harbaugh can do that this year. They almost got taken down by Army earlier this year. And again, I will emphasize it, dismantled by Wisconsin. They are a far better football team right now, and then Michigan beat up on Rutgers last week. That's really no thing to say. That's a big accomplishment. It really isn't. So big game today for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. If they lose today, don't be shocked that there's going to be rumors circulating that Jim Harbaugh will not return after the 2019 season. And you know what? He can make that jump back to the NFL, and no one would bat an eye. Michigan would do the whole PR move and say, hey, we're going to mutually part ways, and we decide it was in the best interest that you return to the NFL, and we know you want to anyway, despite the fact you being a Michigan man. All right, the other Big Ten game I wanted to highlight today was Michigan State and Ohio State, number 25. The number 25 Spartans are at the number 4 Buckeyes. I'll tell you what, Ohio State looks absolutely unbeatable. How is this team going to lose unless they're playing a Clemson or they're playing in Alabama, maybe even a Georgia? Right now, they look like a bona fide playoff team right now, Ohio State. Right now, they're going to go back to the playoff. That Justin Fields, and I'll tell you what, as you guys know, I'm a huge Jake Fromm guy. He's been this is his third year as Georgia's starting quarterback, and he beat out Justin Fields last year when he came in as a true freshman. And I know Fields got a little playing time last year, but Fields transferred for a reason. He was not going to start at Georgia, but now that he's at Ohio State, you're probably thinking to yourself, man, why didn't Georgia start him? Well, despite the fact that Fromm is a really solid quarterback and he is going to be, I would say, a first-round talent next year in the NFL draft, Justin Fields, when you put him in an offense like Ryan Day has put him in with Ohio State, boy, this guy's explosive as he is able to run. Fromm's more of a pocket passer, while Justin Fields can throw it, he can run it. He is more of an air-it-out type of quarterback. He's not going to play it safe all the time, but, boy, he looks like a Heisman contender right now. Ryan Day has done wonders, and Ohio State looks better than ever. You thought they were good last year with Dwayne Haskins pulling the trigger at quarterback. Justin Fields is beating him by a mile right now because he can run with the football. Ohio State looks absolutely unstoppable. They are at home today. Can Michigan State upset them? I don't think so. Not today. Michigan State is one of those teams where even in a down season they're going to give everybody fits, but going on the road in the horseshoe today, I just do not see it today for Michigan State. Ohio State, it is a big game for both, and Michigan State could cause some chaos today with an upset, but if Justin Fields has even an average day today, the Buckeyes will roll over the Spartans. All right, and the last game I wanted to look at before we look at the rankings real quick, number 7 Auburn and number 10 Florida. This is probably the biggest game of the day. I think this is probably a playoff eliminator for Florida because you look at Auburn, even if they lose this game, they could still knock off Alabama, win the division, and get into the SEC championship game, and then end up getting into the playoffs. So I think Auburn still has a shot, even if they lose today for Florida. I don't think they're going to be able to beat Georgia. If they have any shot, they have to win today, and then maybe you could say, all right, maybe they can beat Georgia. They're at home. There's no Felipe Franks, as we know, so they're going to be going back and forth between these two quarterbacks. Looks like I think Trask is getting the start today. But this is do or die for Florida. You're at home, so you can take advantage of this. But Auburn is really, really good, and Bo Nix, their true freshman quarterback, is exceeding expectations right now. So if they're going to be a legit playoff team this year and be able to beat Alabama this year, they'll go on the road and beat this game, and they'll beat out the Florida Gators today. So if Bo Nix is the real deal, he'll win this one on the road. If Florida is a complete team, they'll stand their ground, they'll hold serve, they'll knock off Auburn, and they'll keep them alive for the playoff. All right, we are going to step aside and take a quick break. On the other side, we will have James Cratch of NJ.com joining us live here from SHI Stadium. It'd be good to have him on, talk a little and preview the matchup today, so keep it locked here. You're listening to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show with Nick Costco on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Back here on the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show, live from SHI Stadium today, right here on 97.3 ESPN. Nick Costco there. We're going to scrap the segment we just had planned here because a little bit of breaking news, and I got to give my good buddy James Cratch of NJ.com some credit here, acting like Adam Schefter over there. We have just received some breaking Rutgers news, and we'll dive into Rutgers, of course, in this segment. I'll go over the college football rankings as well, so that I promised you that before the break. So some Rutgers news right now. Raheem Blackshear, arguably their best offensive weapon, he is not playing today because he has decided to redshirt. You heard that right. Remember that 4-game redshirt rule is in effect? Yes, he's only played 4 games this year. That was the maximum. He is not playing today. He's going to redshirt, and, we kind of expected this to happen maybe just because of the firing of Chris Ash, and there's going to probably be some turnover now with Rutgers. Some guys are going to be thinking about transferring. I mentioned before that quarterback Art Sikowski is not playing today. He's going to be only used in an absolute emergency situation. He actually is suited up today, but for their true sophomore quarterback, it looked like he was going to be the starter the rest of the way, even with the injury, even after McLean Carter came back from injury. He is still out with the concussion injury as well right now. But Sikowski's plan right now is to redshirt. You never know if he's going to transfer, and based on some speculation, it might be that Raheem Blackshear, arguably the best running back on this football team, next to Isaiah Pacheco, of course, a South Jersey product out of Vineland High School. Blackshear is going to be in line to redshirt, and who knows, might be transferring out of Rutgers. That's just pure speculation right now. But some breaking news from NJ.com's James Cratch: Raheem Blackshear is not playing today. He is going to he's planning on redshirting this year. Man, I'll tell you what, it was crazy because he came in here sprinting towards the booth, and then he got another phone call, and he had to get out of here. So I don't blame him at all. James is working hard, so we'll move right along here. And I wanted to give you those college football rankings as I promised before. So the top 4 right now, as I mentioned, Bama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State. That looks like a really good playoff right now. And then the rest of the top 10: LSU, Oklahoma, Auburn, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, and Florida. That rounds out your top 10. And right now, those are your playoff teams right now. Those are the teams that could get into the playoff. Your top 4 right now, I think Bama's going to get in. Clemson's basically a shoo-in to get in. I know they've struggled a little bit, but they play in the ACC, so I think they're going to get in. Georgia, can they get in? I think the only way they get in is if they are undefeated, get to the SEC championship game, and then they'll get in as long as they play an undefeated Bama team. Then I think you'll have both those teams end up getting in, as one of them will get in with 1 loss. And then Ohio State, if they win the Big Ten, they're going to get in, whether they're undefeated. If they have 1 loss, then it's up in the air between maybe if LSU can make a move, but they would have to get through Bama. Oklahoma can go undefeated, win the Big 12, and maybe they would get in. Auburn obviously can be a thorn in Bama's side. Wisconsin winning the Big 10, if they're undefeated, that's a good shot for the Badgers as well. Notre Dame can still be a pain in the butt. They only got 1 loss. If they can run the table, you have to consider them at least. And, of course, Florida, if they win the SEC as well, undefeated, I think Florida can get in as well. So those are your teams that I think have the best shot to get in. Obviously, as I mentioned before, Iowa and Michigan, outside shots, but they have to win the Big Ten. I think Iowa has to go undefeated, and Michigan, of course, has to run the table. And running the table would mean beating Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State, and then winning the Big Ten title. So I think Michigan would definitely deserve to get in at that point with only 1 loss. So that'll wrap. So that kind of rounds up and wraps up my thoughts on just the overall landscape of college football right now in terms of the rankings and the playoff teams right now that have a shot. So we'll dive into a little bit of Rutgers now as they are taking on Maryland today. The Terps have struggled since that dominating win over Syracuse. They've lost to Temple. They got blown out by Penn State last Friday, 59-0. So it's going to be a very intriguing game today. It seems like Maryland is not as good as we thought they were the first 2 weeks of the season, but I don't think they're as bad as we saw last week. So they're kind of in the middle, but Rutgers, who knows? They could be this bad as we've seen in the last 3 weeks, or they could be a little bit better and kind of more towards the team we saw back in Week 1 when they defeated UMass, and they went off offensively back here on a Friday night in Week 1 here in Piscataway. So I'm looking at this game today, and I wanted to just dive into the hectic week that was here for Rutgers football. Obviously, Chris Ash was fired last Sunday. Athletic Director Pat Hobbs made the decision basically right after that Michigan game, and he made it on the plane. And it was a nice story by Keith Sargent of NJ.com as well. You can read that. He did an inside story of the final 24 hours of Chris Ash's tenure here at Rutgers. And basically, Hobbs made the decision to fire him on the plane. And then once they landed back in Jersey, that was pretty much all she wrote for Chris Ash, as he had to clean out his office, and he is now gone. So Nunzio Campanelli, the former Bergen Catholic High School head coach, is going to be the guy for the remainder of the season. He's the head coach, interim head coach, as they also let go offensive coordinator John McNulty. So Nunzio Campanelli, your interim offensive coordinator and interim head coach. It's going to be interesting to see what he has in store offensively. As I mentioned before, Art Sikowski is not playing today. He would only come in an emergency situation. Right now you have quarterback Johnny Langen, the former Boston College quarterback. He transferred to Rutgers. He's also Campanelli's former quarterback at Bergen Catholic High School. We saw him in some situational packages back in week number 1 when he came in as a running quarterback and really didn't even throw the football. Actually, I don't even think he threw a pass back in week 1, but he's going to have the full arsenal today. He's going to have Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield out of Vineland High School, of course, and Cedar Creek's own Bo Melton out there, wide receiver. No Raheem Blackshear today, as we mentioned. That was the big breaking news that just came down about 5-10 minutes ago. So it's going to be a tough day for Johnny Langen. Let's see what he can do today as the new Rutgers quarterback, or the third Rutgers quarterback today. I mean, again, the quarterback carousel is just absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe it. We thought maybe we finally had Art Sikowski, but because of Ash's firing, I think Sikowski wanted to take some time and contemplate redshirting. He wanted to not play today, preserve that 4th game in case he wanted to come back as well. As we mentioned, he didn't play week 1. But he has played the last 3 weeks, including the last 2 games he started. So, he only can play one more game, and you don't want to waste it today and then say, all right, I want a red shirt. So we'll see if Sikowski does come back into the fold at some point this year. But again, he is the emergency quarterback. True freshman Cole Snyder is going to be the backup today for Rutgers. So Langen, I mentioned before, more of a running quarterback. So does Campanelli actually tailored to his strengths. I mean, I would say they're not going to really air it out today. You can see a lot of intermediate, obviously some short passes today as well, but I think they're going to maybe throw in a little bit more RPO-style plays, some read options for Langen, get him moving on his feet, keep the Maryland defense honest, because apparently, if we're talking realistically here, this Maryland defense is not that good, and Rutgers is going to have to be able to score points today in order to keep up with the Terps, because they can score points in a hurry because they have a lot of athletes, as they do every single season. And usually, it's funny with Maryland because they never seem to be able to put all those athletes in the right places. But against certain teams, they can expose a defense's weaknesses because the athletes are so talented, and they can put a lot of guys in space, whether they're running backs or wide receivers. A lot of their quarterbacks are run-first type of quarterbacks. Then they'll beat you with a throw later. So it's going to be interesting to see how Rutgers goes tit for tat here with the Maryland Terps today as well. What I wanted to dive into with James as well before he had to skedaddle out of here, of course, was the notion of who's going to be the next Rutgers head coach. It's a fascinating topic here because we really don't know. And you look at the top candidates, it's Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano is the guy everybody seems to want. At least I would say the majority of the fans want him back. He has been reported, rumored, whatever you want to call it, as the primary or top candidate on the list for 2020. He's not currently coaching, so you could talk to him now if you wanted to. You could essentially hire him within the next couple of weeks if you wanted to. I know Pat Hobbs said he wanted to have they expect to have a decision and an announcement by the end of the season. And again, by the time you get to the end of the season, you're going to have a couple weeks until that early signing period, and you better work fast because you need to keep the guy. You want to keep as many guys here as possible that you think are going to contribute to this program next year, and you also want to be able to keep the guys who are already committed to this program before Ash's firing, and how many of those guys are going to decommit. And then you have to go back to what we were talking about earlier. What's going to happen with the guys that are on this team right now? Sikowski's thinking about sitting out this year and preserving a year by redshirting. Who knows if he has transfer thoughts? Raheem Blackshear is not playing today. He is going to sit out. He's going to redshirt this year. Is he going to transfer? It's a good possibility because that guy has NFL potential. He can get drafted. If he goes to another Big Ten school, another one of these big Power 5 schools, if he goes to the Big Ten, maybe he has to sit out 1 year and then he'll go and play one more year and up his NFL draft stock. It's a distinct possibility. So you got to see what you can do if you're Pat Hobbs, if you're Nunzio Campanelli. You got to be able to keep your guys here, at least your most talented guys here. Keep your commits coming in. and obviously go back out on that recruiting trail and get more guys for the class of 2020. Obviously get guys for the class of 2021. But this is a huge time in Rutgers football. They're down in the dumps right now. But if you can bring back a guy like Greg Schiano, you can bring back respectability to this program as well. I made an argument for a guy like Butch Jones, the former Tennessee head coach. I put a story up on thebanks.com, which is a Rutgers SB Nation blog. I made the argument for him just because he's had success in every stop he's been at, and I know it didn't really end well with Tennessee. He was 4-6 through 10 games, and then they fired him before the season was over. And of course, they were 0-6 in SEC play up until that point. But he's had success everywhere, and when he was at Cincinnati, he was a thorn in Rutgers' side back then too, and he won a conference title with Cincinnati. So am I saying Butch Jones can win a Big Ten title with Rutgers? No, I'm not saying that, but I think a guy like Butch Jones or a guy like Greg Schiano, of course, can be a guy who can come in here, win 6 games, maybe not right off the bat, but within 2 years, win 6 games, go to a bowl game, win 7-8 games consistently. I can see that, and realistically, if you're a Rutgers fan, if you're this administration, that's what you want. And I know Pat Hobbs set those lofty goals for, I want Big Ten conference titles. I want Rose Bowls. I get that. You want that. And it's great that someone finally said that at Rutgers University, but you're not going to get that within the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe 20 years down the line, if a lot of things change, you could see that, but not in the immediate future. And you have to expect, just get back to respectability, be a relevant program in a big-time Power 5 conference, and all of a sudden you're going to get more respect from the rest of the landscape of college football. The Jersey recruits are going to love it. They'll want to stay home. More of them will, and then maybe you'll get the big boys. Maybe like the guys like the Rashawn Garys, the Jonathan Taylors of the world. You'll get those guys to stay at Rutgers this time and not be like a guy like Jonathan Taylor who commits there and then decommits because he wants to go to Wisconsin. And now look at Taylor. He's a Heisman candidate over with the Badgers, and he can lead that kid at running back can lead the Badgers to a conference title and also maybe even the college football playoff, to say the least. And what I wanted to dive in with James here, before he had to skedaddle basically he's the Adam Schefter of Rutgers, we'll call him, of course. But he wrote a story about Jeff Monken, and if you don't know who Jeff Monken is, just to go look at Army. Jeff Monken's the Army head coach. He's gotten double-digit wins at Army. And people might say, well, why would you do that for the Army head coach, Jeff Monken, and bring him into Rutgers and run the triple option offense? It doesn't work. Well, you'd be ignorant to say that the triple option doesn't work. It does work. You just don't see many teams run it anymore. You barely see it run anymore. Army runs it. Navy runs it. Georgia Tech has run it. That's pretty much it that I can think of off the top of my head. The triple option offense is actually very effective, and the biggest argument I'll take away from Cratch's story, and I like this, because it actually gets me on board now if Rutgers decide to go in that direction. The triple option offense doesn't require all of these 5-star athletes. And you don't have to throw the football that much. You really don't. You barely throw the football. Army barely throws the football. I know we've seen Navy throw a little bit more in recent years, but a team like Army, which plays such disciplined football, plays very effectively, took Oklahoma and Michigan to the wire in overtime the last 2 years. This could be a good thing for Rutgers, because pretty much, if you're Rutgers, you've pretty much tried everything. You saw your peak and what it was like under Greg Schiano. You were talking top 10 rankings at one point. You were talking maybe the BCS bowl games, conference championships. You saw that. And Kyle Flood kind of had that as a little bit of a carryover. Then he went downhill, and then, of course, it's pretty much been all downhill under Chris Ash until his firing, of course, just last week. So if you're Rutgers, particularly the past couple of years, you have barely been able to throw the football. Why not try something dramatically different? Because what do you have to lose? It can't get any worse offensively pretty much for you in the past couple of years. Why not try this? Throw some money at Jeff Monken, bring him in here, run the triple option offense. And Jeff Monken would be this would be the holy grail for him, because you can turn a lot of these the guys are listed as athletes, right? Whether they are D-backs, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. A lot of these guys are at interchangeable positions. And if Jeff Monken can come into a Big Ten school with Big Ten caliber linemen, I mean, that's another thing. Rutgers does need to recruit better Big Ten caliber linemen offensively and defensively. but Monken has undersized linemen at Army every year. But these guys are military members. They're service members. I mean, they're there to do a job, and they just happen to play football. These are all undersized linemen. If you get Big Ten quality type of linemen, even if they're 3-star linemen, Monken would be ecstatic. The bigger linemen you have, and because you're running the football so often, boom, you're draining clock, you're wearing down opposing defenses, and you're constantly running the football. And with the talent Rutgers has at some of these skill positions, look at a guy like Isaiah Pacheco. Wouldn't you love to see him in a triple option offense? The guy played quarterback in high school. He had to. He can throw, he can run, he can catch. Why not? You have, particularly with a guy like Johnny Langan, a run first quarter. I'm just kind of picturing it right now. If Monken was in here right now with the skill guys Rutgers has right here in 2019, Johnny Langan running quarterback, maybe more of a run first, not the best passer as far as we can tell right now. But I would love to see him on some speed options, triple options. Toss to Pacheco, fake to Pacheco, and then obviously there's no Raheem Blackshear today, but you have other guys back there. Put Bo Melton in the backfield. You want some speed in the backfield? How about Langan, Pacheco, and Melton in the backfield for you Rutgers fans and South Jersey fans? Wouldn't you like to see that? Loads of possibilities here. I think Monken actually would be a decent option here to be the head coach at Rutgers. It's an outside-the-box option, but if you're Rutgers, hey, maybe you do need to think outside the box because you have not been competitive in the Big Ten since 2014, which was the inaugural season for the Scarlet Knights here in this illustrious conference. So why not try this? Outside the box, we have not seen outside the box thinking for this university in quite some time, probably if ever, at least with the football program. Basketball got it right with the head coach, Steve Pigo. Wrestling has got it right with the head coach in Scott Goodale. Why not try to get it right with Rutgers? You can do the reunion with Greg Schiano. You can bring in a veteran like Butch Jones. Why not go outside the box with a guy like Jeff Monken? That would be very intriguing, at least in my mind. Is it a possibility? Maybe. Are they thinking about it? I don't know. I don't have that much insight to what Pat Hobbs is thinking because apparently he's the one who's going to be making the decision by himself. Of course, you'll have people advising him. There's going to be some kind of committee, no actual search committee, but there are committees around him that could be advising him a little bit, but it's ultimately going to fall on Pat Hobbs' shoulders of who the next head coach is. And honestly, this is probably going to make or break his tenure here as the Rutgers athletic director. So that is going to be the biggest thing moving forward. Who's going to be the head coach? I mean, we can talk about the game a little bit here today. And, Maryland is a 13.5-point favorite, and I'll save my pick for later. But Rutgers they're up against it. I know they're back at home today, but you would like to see the crowd come out today just because I would say it's sort of a fresh start today with the interim head coach, but unfortunately it's a little spotty here right now with the attendance. We're still about a half hour away, so people will file in, but it was a small crowd last time out here against Boston College, and that was a very disappointing loss. So maybe if the crowd shows up today, it's a little bit chillier today. Maybe people were indoors today. I saw some nice tailgating outside in the Scarlet lot, but if the crowd can get behind these guys, which they might have to do, they might have to do a wait-and-see approach here. It's kind of what I'm doing right now with Nunzio Campanelli. How much is he really going to change this program in 1 week? Will it take a couple weeks? Maybe. Is he going to be able to win a couple games? Maybe he can. But I think the fans, at least, want to take a wait-and-see approach with this football team. If they happen to knock off Maryland today, I don't know. We're going to see Rutgers at 2-3. We have a chance here to see what the Scarlet Knights can do in the upcoming schedule. There are winnable games. Indiana, Illinois, Liberty. Those are just some of the schools that are coming up on the schedule for the Scarlet Knights. And, I got to say, there could be a chance for Nunzio to make a case to be the head coach next year. I think he would be under consideration if he can do a solid job. I think he's going to have to win, let's say, 3 games and have Rutgers finish at 4-8 at least to be considered. But who knows? The next head coach could say, hey, we'll keep you on as offensive coordinator. Wouldn't be a bad thing, particularly if he lives up to his offensive potential here. All right, we are going to step aside and take a quick break. On the other side, we're coming back with my picks against the spread. We got my 4-pack of games coming up, 9-7 on the season. We'll see if we can go 4-0. We were 3-1 last week. How about a perfect week? We have not had a perfect week yet. Let's see if we can get that and go and be 13-7 come next week. Keep it locked here. You're listening to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show with Nick Costco on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Back here at SHI Stadium on the campus of Rutgers University. Nick Costco with you on the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show. Got a couple more minutes to go here. And, boy, it's been. I'm only on the air for about 40 minutes. It's been wild here just because my good buddy James Crash broke the news that Rutgers running back Raheem Blackshear is not playing today. He's playing the red shirt, and who knows? He's probably going to transfer. And I'm pleased to welcome him now for a few minutes before I do my picks, and he's going to roast me on my picks probably today too. My fellow colleague and also former classmate, Matt Howe. Matt, what's going on, man? Glad to see you.
Nick, glad to be here. Beautiful day here in Piscataway.
Oh, absolutely, man. For those of you who don't know, Matt was the illustrious lucky one who got to take over for me at Rutgers University for the Rutgers wrestling coverage on our student radio station WRSU 88.7. So glad to have him back here. He's you're working with Chris Carr and Ray Lucas right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing here today.
Good, man. Glad to hear it. Glad you're here. Obviously, it's always great to see you, of course. I'll get your thoughts real quick before we only have a couple minutes here. But Raheem Blackshear, are you really shocked?
No, I'm not shocked at all. It's a shame. Like, obviously, if you're a huge Rutgers fan, you're going to be upset about it. But isn't that college sports? It's guys looking out for themselves, especially in this situation with
they're not paid.
Well, they're not paid. The head coach getting fired. They're looking out for their best interest and to get to that next level. And for Raheem Blackshear, it might be the transfer to a better school next year, or depending on who Rutgers brings in at head coach, maybe he'll stay, maybe he'll go.
He's got NFL potential, and
absolutely. So it doesn't surprise me, although it is a big loss.
It is. It's going to stink for Johnny Langan today, who's making his first start. He still has Isaiah Pacheco back there, running back, but without Blackshear, who's a dynamic, basically a multifaceted back who can run and catch, and he's probably the best offensive player on the team. So it's going to be a big loss for them today. All right, I'm going to get into my picks here. You can roast me if you want. So,
no doubt.
I
might be with you on some of them.
Hey, we'll see. All right, I'm 9-7 this year, 3-1 last week.
Not bad.
We're looking for our first 4-0 week of the season. So right now, Tulane at Army. Army +2 at home. I'm shocked they're a home dog. I'm going with Army. What do you think?
Oh, I love that, Nick.
Good. Yes.
That
nice.
was one of my picks with my buddy. We do a podcast, and I was all over Army.
Nice.
Home dog's going to eat.
Yeah,
Army's a good team. Tulane. Love it.
Awesome. All right, number 14, Iowa at number 19, Michigan. Iowa, 4-point dogs on the road. I'm not a fan of Michigan right now. I'm like the last one to jump off the ship for Michigan, but I like Iowa +4 on the road right now in Ann Arbor.
Nick, this game is a game that is very, very intriguing. I really like Iowa, but I think Michigan rebounds this week. I think they roll. I think they roll at home, and Harbaugh gets his big win that he needs.
He's going to have to save his job with this win today. All right, number 15, Washington at Stanford. Stanford also home dogs. I think they're getting disrespected here. +15 at home. I got to roll with the Stanford Cardinal, man.
Here's the only reason I don't like Stanford is because all the money is coming in on Stanford. All the public is on Stanford.
You're an opposite picks guy. I like it.
So the books need Washington very, very badly here, but it is a lot. They are kind of getting disrespected. I'm all right with that pick for you.
All right, you're an opposite picks guy. Shout out to my guy Scott Wetzel, of course, for the opposite picks nomenclature. Finally, Maryland, 13.5-point favorites today at Rutgers. I want to pick our school here, Matt, but I just can't do it. I think Maryland's going to cover today. Hopefully Rutgers is competitive today, but I like Maryland. -13.5 on the road here today.
Yeah, here's another thing. 87% of the public is on Maryland, so it makes you think,
who knows?
Using that logic, Rutgers should be able to cover, but I don't see that happening. I just can't see it with the third-string quarterback, Raheem Blackshear, not playing.
No, not today. So, all right, that's going to do it. So we got Army, Iowa, Stanford, and Maryland. That's going to do it for me. Thanks to Matt Howe for hopping on real quick. I am Nick Costco saying so long. I'll see you back in studio next week at, I think, what time is the game next week? Noon.
Noon.
We'll come back at 11 a.m. You've been listening to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN.